And so what we talk about next is the idea of the multiplier effect. Now, it can go both ways. It can be a negative multiplier or a positive multiplier, but they're both the same idea. The idea is that money gets spent repeatedly. So the auto worker that lost their job is going to stop spending money, but then the restaurant takes in less money. And then the servers and the bartenders and the cooks get less money. And then the grocery store gets less money because the cooks aren't buying stuff. That is going to mean that one less dollar means more than $1 throughout the economy. What it means is that $1 more leads to more than $1 in the economy. So, if you were to go the opposite direction like they did during the stimulus, and say, let's keep those auto plants open, that could actually prop up an entire town. Because if the auto plant stays open, the auto workers get paid, but it also means that everyone else in the town also gets paid. And because that dollar is circulating more and more and more, then it's going to lead to more than $1. So 787 billion might mean more, some multiple of that throughout the economy. Now, mathematically, some classes do a little bit more of the math than others, but this is the idea of how it works. The idea is that you can spend or you can save $1. And so where we start with is where does this dollar go? And so if the government puts $1 into the economy, I'm going to call this person A. They're going to do one of two things. They're going to either save it or spend it. And they're going to save somewhere between 0 and 100% of it. And they're going to spend the rest. All right, so they're going to spend and they're going to save the money. And if they go shopping, then I'm just going to call this person B. All right? Now, this money gets saved. This money drops out. It doesn't circulate. But you can have this dollar get spent by one person and then another, and you can keep going C, D, E throughout the economy. Now, the money is going to disappear eventually because whatever gets put in the bank drops out of circulation. But whatever fraction remains gets spent over and over so that it turns out to be more than $1. Now, there's a couple terms for this. First of all, we have to know what fraction gets spent. And so the idea is that this MPC stands for something called marginal propensity to consume. Okay, what that means is, we know in economics what marginal means. It means one more. So this is one more dollar. So the marginal principle, one more dollar. Consume simply means how much of that $1 gets consumed. And finally, we can say, well, what does propensity mean? Propensity just means the likelihood or the tendency. So this is the tendency to consume if given one more dollar. Now this is going to be between 0 and 1. So somewhere between 0% gets consumed, meaning you save all of it, and 100%, meaning you consume all of it and save nothing. You're going to have some decimal, some portion of a number in between. All right? Now, so that has to do with the math of what we're doing. So let's assume that this is 0.5. What that means is that 50% or half is consumed. So let's say 50% consumed. And the other 50%, because there's only 2 places it can go, is saved. So depending on this fraction, it's just going to be a different mixture between spending and saving. So to make an easy example, let's say that the government gives $100 out. And the government has actually done this. I talked about 2009, I talked about the Great Depression. There's been other times the government has done this. I remember, I think it was in 2001, the government just sent a check to everybody, like a couple $100. And the idea is, well, do you put it all in the bank? Do you consume it? Or do you save it? Do you put it all in the bank? And some people chose to save their money and some people went shopping. Right? But if the government does send me a check for $100, I'm going to choose to spend half of that, 50. So I go to Jewel and I spend $50 on groceries. Now, they get a check for $50, or I give them $50 in cash. This money is their money, and I spent the 100. So now this money is more than what started out. So this money is multiple. And that's really important. Just because I go shopping and their clerks take money, it does not go back and take the money from my wallet. I've already spent it. They're not going to ask for it back. $1 in my pocket does not disappear if some of that money goes into someone else's pocket. What it does do is it multiplies. So you can add 100 to the economy, and now I spend 100, someone gets paid $50, they go shopping to another store, they're going to spend half of that, which is 25. Now the remainder gets saved as well, so they're going to save half. But that money is out of play, it's out of circulation. So if you have $100 plus 50 plus 25, you can keep cutting it in half, over and over. Half of 25 is $12.50, $6.25, $3, and so forth. If you add up all this, and I'm not going to do it, but if you do the math, it will add up to $200. So that means that with this specific number that I gave you, meaning people save half their money and spend half, you can actually turn $100 in one person's pocket into $200 in the whole economy, or the aggregate economy's pocket. Right? And that's no coincidence. If you look at this fraction, MPC of 0.5 is 1/2. And the idea is that we doubled the money. So somehow you can get from 1/2 to doubling it, you can turn 1/2 to 2. And so the formula for this, the multiplier, is 1 over 1 minus MPC. So if you take 1 over 1 minus 1/2, that equals 2. And so that means that with this specific number, meaning people save a lot, they only spend relatively little. That means that $1 in our pocket turns into $2 down the road. Now, if you change the MPC, it changes things. All right, I'll give you one more example. Let's change this to 0.9. Now, we can do it the easy way and say, well, let's just put in 0.9 into this formula. And what happens here is that 1 minus 9/10 is 1/10. The multiplier becomes 10. And so mathematically, it simply means the more you consume, the more $1 gets spent through the economy. And that makes sense, because if I spend all my money and everybody else spends all their money, the money's going to get spent more. And so where it ties into fiscal policy is if the government wants to raise GDP, they can put some money in the economy and they can watch GDP go up by more than the amount